We have hit the live button. We'll let that propagate across the globe.
Perpetrate.
I was struggling a bit. I was doing, my parents visiting, and my brother and I were doing Wordle together just in the morning.
With shirts.
Yeah. I was dreaming of your shirt. I was like, what would Jeff put on his shirt and it's from his Halloween costume? I've never blanked on language more in my life.
Yeah.
I had zero words. I think my third one was complete throwaway because I could not think of any other. I just got to get rid of letters because I'm so lost at this point. And then it came up. I'm like, well, this hasn't helped one bit.
No.
This is just even worse. I think I got it, but I cheated because I went to one of those. Okay, it starts with this.
Oh, you can't do that. What are you doing?
What did it be? Was it not? I think it was a Nate, Inate. Yeah, that's what it ended up being.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't even in that ballpark, man. I might as well have just been Portuguese for all it mattered.
You tried, sort of.
That's my gaming life. What can I tell you?
That's right.
Wordle with my mom.
Yeah.
All right, let's get the live recording underway. We are live. The adult beverages are poured. The kids are asleep. Welcome to New Dad Gaming, a show about fatherhood, gaming, and new fathers figuring out their gaming lives. My name is Trevor, and I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old.
And I'm Jeff. I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old.
So don't get too used to that introduction anymore. The wild news is that I interviewed my dad for this podcast.
Amazing.
It was so fantastic. A bit of backstory on my father. He was a professional radio journalist. So he was on news radio.
Look at you. You're pulling in the favors. We're getting the big time.
But his booming voice, and he just couldn't help it. I had to reset everything because immediately he just walks up to the mic and he's got this perfect practice projection from all of his training in the field. So he has recorded a new opening for this podcast at my behest, and it is stunning. We look like such amateurs. We need help. We need some training, frankly.
Dad, can you come back and help me on my podcast, please? I'm having some trouble.
Hey, it's a good segue for all dads out there where it's like, don't worry. Your kids will always come back for help.
There you go. Yeah.
It's good. And, in the spirit of thank yous, that actually kind of transitions nicely. Before we get into the rest of the show today, we have a copyright strike against us thanks to the Jeff's Kids French horn. we have a Deer Simulator. We have a 14-year-old beating God of War in 2 days. 2 Monster energy drink stricken days. That's amazing. That's right. And some more on the show. But before we get on to the good stuff, we want to take a moment and sincerely thank everybody. This year has been a huge year for the podcast. Jeff and I had set out some goals for listeners and some interactions and everything else, and we hit those that year. It was really heartwarming. And, the thing we say every single time is the interacting with everybody online is one of the greatest parts that has come out of doing this show. So we've made some really great friends on Twitter and elsewhere, and want to keep that going. So firstly, heartfelt thank you. If you've ever listened to the show, if you've ever reached out to us, maybe it seems like a small thing, I'll send them a comment. I can't tell you how much that means to me and Jeff. It's really fantastic. It means so much and really gives us the hope and strength to keep going. Usually what I do tuck in at the end of the show is a request to, subscribe to the show, to give us a like, to give us a comment on it and a rating. I'm going to tuck it into the top. As we enter the next year, we got new goals for the show. We're hoping to continue to expand and hope to continue to improve while doing so. But if you could take a moment and you could subscribe to this podcast, and what really helps is if you leave a rating and a comment. I can't describe the change in numbers because of this, because it just boosts the signal out, and it would mean the world to us. If you have something you'd like to promote and you leave us a rating, reach out to us on Twitter at New Dad Gaming, or our website, newdadgaming.com. Happy to shout it out, share around the good news of whatever else is going on. Right, Jeff?
That's fantastic. Look, you summed it up quite perfectly. Again, love interacting with people. It's great to hear that, this isn't falling on deaf ears. People like to hear what we have to say and join in on the fun and share in some of those failures that we love to share with others and hopefully bring us all up and bring us all together to overcome all those barriers of life that throws at you, right? So it's good. It's good to see.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the other thing we'll do. So we always tuck this in at the end of the show. We're not going to do this every beginning of the show, but we also have a great tagline that we never get. That if you never got to the end of the show, you've never heard.
Right.
So, and remember, just because you became a dad
Does not mean it's game over.
there you go, little taste. If you ever make it to the end, that's the awesome tagline.
Yeah.
That maybe you've never heard before.
You're missing it if you haven't.
And let's hop right into the show. And it has to do with some drama where
Of course.
you might all recall when you yourself went to school, went into band class, you got some degree of instruments, played it around. Jeff had a fabulous tale how his son waltzed up the driveway one day having chosen the French horn,
Yeah.
which played prominently in his household for quite a while. It resulted in the first takedown strike against this show because we had brought up a YouTube video of someone playing the French horn, and I had foolishly played a bit of the audio.
Right. And just got, immediate copyright strike.
Excuse me, sir. That is my French horn. You are not allowed to play that on your show.
No. It's affecting us in more ways than we ever could have assumed.
It's ruining your home life, Jeff. It's ruining your podcast life.
That's right. It's just upsetting the balance.
So what is the update on the French horn? So your son, as best I understand it, has to bring it home fairly often to practice, no?
Yeah, he lugs this thing home every weekend, walks in the door with his giant black case filled with the French horn, and I guess they're practicing for a Christmas concert, which is in probably T-minus a month, and so they need to know a lot of Christmas songs. So that's what I'm getting: French horn, Christmas songs. So if you think of a Christmas songs like Jingle Bells or Frosty the Snowman, just think of that in French horn. Like, what would that sound like? And that's what I'm hearing.
The problem is so Jingle Bells is awful because it's just the same note. It's like wah,
Right.
wah, wah,
Yes.
wah, wah, wah.
Yes. And exactly like that. And look at the enthusiasm. Like, that's what the horn kind of, it doesn't really go up or down. It just, so.
Did your kids skip recorders? Because I think
No.
a good part of our audience should remember recorders,
Yep.
the plastic devil flutes that we all
Yes.
had.
We had it all for the last 4 or 5 years. So it was like Lord of the Rings in this place when it was virtual school. It was recorders all the time. I was in a fairy tale. It was
that's
crazy.
a horror show. So your kids were at virtual school and they were doing their recorder over top of and then you had to hear not only the recorder, which naturally sounds like ass,
Yep.
but through the internet connection and speakers of Chromebooks.
Yep. Yes. Ooh. Yes, Trevor. Yes. That's what life was.
Who did you do wrong, man? That is terrible.
Oh, yeah. So no stranger to recorders. So buckle up.
Well, thank you, French horns. You are ruining many lives across many gamuts. We'll have to get your son to do a show for us.
Oh, yeah, sure.
The intro music, just so that all the gaming dads at home can also have their ears ruined.
That would be a bad idea, actually. That would be pretty funny.
One episode of him doing our theme song would be pretty funny.
Yeah. I'll see if it happens. Yeah, that'd be funny.
Okay, let's move on to some more happy good time stuff. So I came down and saw my son had downloaded a new game from Game Pass. Saw him playing Deer Simulator.
No, you're not saying it right.
Deer Simulator.
There you go.
And the thing that got me, if you've seen trailers for the game or even just a picture of the game, you kind of get it. It's going to be tongue-in-cheek, silly nonsense, just like stuff flying around. Okay, that seems like harmless fun. But the thing that immediately hooked me as I was walking past is how the deer runs.
Yeah.
So imagine a bodybuilder swole bro with his arms out to the side, and then just his tiny little deer sprinting down the lane. So my son is just for the afternoon. He was crying with laughter. This is just the funniest thing. It just hit his funny bone, and he's 7 at this point. So it just hit a 7-year-old's funny bone perfectly.
Yeah.
Everything about it was absolutely ideal, and the guns are huge and massive. The action is just nonstop and fantastical. It's the type of thing where it's what happens if I shoot this building? Oh, it explodes and it lands on this duck, and this duck turns into a submarine, and then It's perfect for your kids, man.
We're just watching video, and as you're talking, there's literally a transformer made of like hippos and tigers that they're fighting. Like, what is going on? This is just complete anarchy. This is amazing. And now they're running on water.
Yeah.
What else is gonna happen?
So there's a huge koala you can take down. There's a 1,000-foot cow is in the distance you can fight. Like, it's...
You know what it reminds me of, though? Like, just looking at it, very Katamari. Just, like,
Yes.
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just have fun. Go have... This is a sandbox. Go nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It's a sandbox in the greatest sense, where it's 1,000 silly things. This isn't about microtransactions or online play. This is just how much crazy stuff can we do to compact it in this tiny area. What about logic? No. You
No.
forget that. We don't have time for that. You just... How big's a koala? I don't care. Shove it on the wall. So that's and again, that's just why it hits a 7-year-old's funny bone just perfectly.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, like, I was trying to walk past it, and all of a sudden I saw it. I'm like, I'm gonna have to sit and watch this for a while. This is too good. This is too funny.
Looks like pure joy. You're gonna have to get them into like Goat Simulator and stuff, because it's probably along the same lines as this.
Yeah, very much a cousin to that one.
Yeah.
So I would say, okay.
God.
As we see, the level 3 police is a rabbit called Earwalker.
This is fantastic. I'm gonna go and check this game out because it just looks. I want to play it. I don't know what's gonna come next, right? Like, you think like there's this, like you were saying, logic to a game, but nope, throws it out the window.
It's just great too. Again, it's much like darn it. It was much like Vampire Survivor, in the sense that
It's a game.
this is not about anything grandiose. This is about some silly fun, like have a good time. Like, what can we do? Let's go for it.
Yeah.
And it's very pure in that sense, and its silliness. And I even like the Katamari comparison, because those games are always so well received, because there was just a charm about them. Like, it was wild and fantastical and colorful and fun and silly and excellent. Like another game, and good too. I almost think this game could be the on ramp onto a Katamari game for my kids.
Yeah.
You know, if they get into this type of flow. Hey,
Absolutely. Be singing the song in Katamari in no time. It's going through my head right now.
yeah. So gaming dads, if you got one about the age, check it out. Deer Simulator. It's a riot. It's way too much fun. I absolutely highly recommend it. Now, you were shared a story where a 14-year-old of a friend and listener, I think, had beaten God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah.
In how long?
Less than 2 days, Trevor.
2 days in a row, and they actually beat this thing.
Yeah, the whole thing's done. And it was like, I got it through a text message saying, my friend's kid beat God of War. And I'm like, oh, God of War, like the first one, right? Like, it's GOW, the short form. Like, yeah, the first one, I get it. No, this one. And ordered it digitally, like on launch night, played it all the way through. And this is a Saturday afternoon. So launch Friday, Saturday afternoon, completely done. And I'm like,
That's just...
okay, like speed run, like what are we talking here? No. Just 25 to 30 hours, straight main missions, all done, all complete. And it really, like, I was amazed, and a little bit jealous, because those days don't exist anymore for us, Trevor. Like, to just sit down and just burn through this game, be like immersed, like you are Kratos at that point. Like, you come out of this like haze, you're like, yes, boy.
Yeah, boy. But I think it's so great. There's 2 angles to it. One is just our nostalgia for it. Like, until we retire, we're not going to have those type of massive game type sessions. Like you and I cannot fathom a 15-hour game session until I'm retired. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Yeah. So it's a jealousy and nostalgia for that part of it. And then the second part of it is, as fathers of kids who game, like, when it comes time for them to, make a plea, like, no, it's a new game, it's launched, let me play it. There'll be this like push and pull of fatherhood duties versus gamer empathy.
Right.
Where it's like, okay, like, you should not be looking at a screen for 15 hours straight.
Yeah.
However, man, I get it. Because like, I used to do it and I loved it and it was awesome. And this is sort of a rare case. This isn't just your day to day and you're missing school. Right? So like what's your kind of like your kid comes to you to do something similar for a massive release like Ragnarok, like where are you landing?
I think I would come from that angle and say to myself, okay, this is a once in a while special thing. And I know as a kid, just I would want that. My parents would never understand, right? Because they weren't really gamers and they didn't know. No, no, you're not going to, go and sit and watch this thing for hours on end. I would make, an exception. I think once in a while, like a really special game that you've been looking forward to, if there's interest in it, right? If they were just doing this to try and get out of chores or something else or school, you'd be like, no, 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 I could see through that. But no, I would appreciate it. I would want to kind of participate in some of it.
Yeah.
Like, invite me back, invite me in.
I've always seen that there's been setups. It's usually, married couples without kids, and where both partners are into gaming, and they'll have
Yes.
like the dual TV, dual
Yep.
console, dual armchair setup.
Yeah.
And there's that type of scenario where it's like, all right, we're both into it. We're gonna have a marathon. We're not leaving today. We're
Right,
not
yeah.
showering. We're not leaving. It's gonna be all game.
Just could commit to this.
But
Yeah.
I wonder if at some point, if there's some balanced fatherly way to do that with your kid, where it's sort of
hope
like
so.
you have like the gaming dungeon where it's like, all right, I got my console playing here. You got yours over that way. Like, if there could be a somewhat healthy family way to do this, it would be pretty nice.
That is the dream, I think, of New Dad Gaming. That is what we're aspiring to be, to have that kind of experience. I know I want to, and we've talked many, many times in the show with other listeners that have messaged us and their college stories, like playing with their kid in college and like an MMO, like doing all that stuff, like it's really interesting to me, and I would love to do a crush game session like this on something that is as exciting as that is God of War or something like that. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope it happens.
Something to shoot for, and we'll keep
Yeah.
people posted. If you are doing it, definitely do write into us and let us know. Send photo proof at New Dad Gaming or newdadgaming.com. Now, the one game you might be able to go back and visit with your son would be The Witcher 2, because you just can't stop playing it. Now, what's interesting with Witcher 2 is, so you're a crazy Witcher man. You'd lost an entire year
Yeah.
in Witcher 3, but it seemed like Witcher 2 you had to skip it because you didn't have the hardware, or you just no longer had hardware that supported it.
Yeah, I didn't have the hardware to support this one. So I had downloaded Witcher 1 way back, and it is not one that I recommend. I just don't even go into it. It's totally different system, but my computer could run it. Witcher 2 just kind of like upped the graphics in all sorts of ways at the time, and could never run it. So when I got into Witcher 3 and spent I spent a year in it because it took me that long to finish it. Not that I was like running through it multiple times, but coming out of that world, I really wanted to get back to Witcher 2. And then the Steam Deck came along, kind of like through the mail, saying, hey, you got a PC again.
Remember your games?
That's right. So I had it in my library, loaded it up. It's not supported. It says it's not supported.
Interesting.
But with the community controls and stuff, it's really easy. It's, again, I'm playing on ultra graphics. It should be supported, I think, soon. Get that symbol. But all the community layouts, like everything is mapped to what I want. And I am playing Witcher 2 and I'm back in Geralt and I'm just loving it. Like on the go too, right? I don't have to sit in front of my computer and like sit down and kind of nestle in. I can just play it on the couch and just chill out, and no problem to be interrupted with life. I could just put it on pause and go do the thing, come back and fight some necros in a swamp that we're watching right now. So
Do you think it'd be something that you would hand to at some point when your kids have earned the right to touch your Steam Deck?
right.
Do you think Witcher 2 would be one that you would hand to them, saying like, I'd like you to experience this? Or would you start them more at like Witcher 3 because that's more endeared to you?
I think, well, to be honest, probably Witcher 3 just because it's more refined. I think this one's a little bit clunky, and they might just get frustrated with that. That being said, on the Steam Deck, it's a lot of those things are just mapped to buttons that it makes it a little bit easier. But again, those systems can be pretty intense. Witcher 3 kind of gets rid of some of the things and makes it a little bit easier to level up and armor up and all that stuff. This one you have to kind of keep track of. Like, you won't defeat regular enemies unless you put certain oils on your sword that that person's weak to, blah, 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 right? It really relies on that. So I am like a chemist right now going through this world. So I don't know if my kids would be into that or not. Who knows? Maybe.
No, the argument could be made that you're really just setting up for a career in STEM.
Yeah,
Like you're doing. You see, with he's accepting the Nobel Prize for Science.
Yeah.
It's like, how did you start down this path? Well, the chemical compositions I had on my sword on Witcher 2 really led me down the path to science. And thanks, Dad.
I like the way you think. I like this take.
And then the video pans to you, but you're not paying attention because you brought your Steam Deck to the Nobel Prize ceremony. Like, sir, your son just won the Nobel Prize. Please, shut up. Gerald had a really hard boss. Quiet.
My kid already beat this before me. I have to go back and try and catch up. You're right. That's true.
So that sounds like a good excuse to get him into some games.
I think so. I am all for it. Yes, the science.
Now, it leads into a, not conundrum, but it's an interesting situation in my household where, so where we currently are in Ontario, Canada, there was a threat of a strike for teachers, thankfully avoided at the current moment, but in preparation, all the kids were being sent home with iPads and Chromebooks. Right. And the thing that we noticed is that my older son, like, just has taken like a fish to water with this computer. Like, he is all about it. And like, it's the sort of thing where, like, you and your partner will look at each other like, whoa, okay.
We're in trouble.
This is like, this is impressive. This guy's really good. Like, he's already better than his grandparents at this. Like, this is amazing. And so for a couple factions, and so a bunch of things have come together, and I think for me, it solidified my idea that, like, okay, for his Christmas gift, I think the big thing I'm going to get him is a Chromebook.
Okay.
Because he loves the computer, like, and he's all about it. And the thing that we had some parent-teacher interviews with his teacher, and one thing that she said is that he is highly motivated by the device. So a lot of times when it's like, okay, I got to do my homework and I got to do my tasks. Okay, I did it. Can I go play? Have I earned my 15 minutes on my computer?
Right.
So, we could sort of use that to prompt some, like, better behaviors that we want. And then secondarily, the games that the school did have on there, it's secretly educational. He's learning. Don't tell him. So especially with he actually does quite well with math. He's still learning a new language with French. So if I can sneak on a whole bunch of games that I know he likes because they're in school and they're, engineered to be fun, but he's secretly learning language.
Yeah.
All the better. It's like, okay, you earned, I'll tell you what, like, you come on home, and as opposed to watching YouTube or Netflix or something, why don't you go play games on your laptop for a bit?
Yeah.
And then boom goes the dynamite. Next thing you know, he's doing some educational games.
You can be that one guy that buys the French version of these Chromebooks and laptops that I don't know who would, well, obviously until you're French, but, like, those ones are readily available.
Yeah, there's a whole lot. A lot of people buying those by mistake.
Yeah. Can I return this? Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear that he's, like, all about the, that's an important skill that I wanted to get into my kids early, because that technology is going to be there for the rest of your life. So learn now, and you're better than the people that I work with that can't work PowerPoint or Google Slides, and they don't know what they're doing. And meanwhile, my kid's making PowerPoints about trying to get Discord. So,
oh my Lord, right? That was the best. Yeah, I even think about his, but I probably want to introduce to him. I'd be curious if you had any other experiences with this, but he loves drawing comics. So he's made a whole comic book.
Oh yeah.
Where now no writing yet because his language isn't quite as far along, but he made like a step by step. Okay, well first, Hero Brian went here, and then this happened, then he got corrupted, and it's like this 10-page comic book he put together. I kind of wonder too about enabling those passions of his by finding programs that could okay, and this is how you can create some animations, and this is how you can create like a comic book. And I don't know, I worry I'm almost too enthusiastically pushing him towards design and coding, because that's how I've made my living in my career, and I love it, and it is a very popular and in demand career. I worry I'm a bit jaded or like biased in that like I'm trying to like it'd be cool if you learned some coding. It's very good.
I know, and I was all about that too, and try to push it. And it worked for a bit, but then they kind of fell into the Minecraft area, which was less about developing stuff and more about just, figuring out the world. But I think guiding them into that kind of space is good. And again, if you're thinking of something like with comic books and stuff, there's, touchscreen Chromebooks exist, and that might even be a cool way to integrate some of that.
Oh, that is good. Because if it was a Chromebook, even with I don't know if Chromebooks commonly come with pens. But it feels like
You probably don't, but
touchscreen actually seems, now that you say that, touchscreen kind of seems like a almost requirement.
it'd be kind of neat. Or, again, if they're good with devices, you do it on the iPad, you transfer it over, you're filing all your stuff. Like, who knows? But you got a little like whiz kid that's grown up and like gonna program your whole smart home pretty soon.
Yeah. So I'll say the natural problem that arose is because so son's gonna get a PC. What about Papa?
What about Papa?
What about old Papa over here? So the problem is as I'm browsing. So as we record this, we have Black Friday and Cyber Monday coming up.
Yeah.
So it's actually, this is a perfect time.
Perfect time
To grab a laptop for my son, a Chromebook.
Yeah. Well,
right?
yeah.
Now, I'm looking at these laptops, it's like, hey, I got this, $1,500 gaming PC on for half price. You interested? I'm like, I wasn't until you said it like that. Not that you mentioned it.
Practically saving money.
Oh man. So my challenge is, I have a perfectly running gaming laptop.
Yeah.
I use it for work. It does splendidly well. I've not really had too many issues with it. The battery sucks, but that's sort of part and parcel for a gaming laptop. And it is nearing 5 years old now.
Ooh,
and the biggest limitation I've missed is that I've recently been stepping into a lot more VR.
Okay.
So, I've kind of been rediscovering my Quest 2 headset, and I've come to learn of all the cool stuff you can do if you actually hook it up to a PC. Mm-hmm. Both with like virtual environments, like some games like that, like Elite Dangerous, Jeff, like my forever game,
This
like one
is
of
your game.
my home. You can do it in VR. I could be in the cockpit of the greatest game that I love,
Yeah.
and be zipping around the universe, having a fantastic time.
The ticket price. You can get in there, right? You can
So-
live it.
So it's just like, it's one of those not sad things, but in researching in total good faith for my dear son for his Christmas present, I've also kind of like stumbled upon dear old dad's Christmas present, and you're seeing those sticker prices and you're like, it's what a great savings. It's fantastic. Which is counter because really you're not saving 600, you're spending 800.
Yeah.
Like you're still losing money.
Proposal. Okay.
Go on.
Alternative that I just thought of right now.
Go on.
That I kind of thought of. But what if you bought a gaming PC and you gifted it to your son? You're like, hey, look, this is what you can do. Do your educational games. Basically, don't tell them about all the other cool stuff it can do yet. And then they go to bed, and Trevor gets to go on his VR mode.
So the shared laptop.
And it's a shared laptop. I mean, it wouldn't work for work necessarily, but school exists, and they're away most of the time of the day. Then, who needs to know?
Yeah, I think my one concern would be because it would be full Windows. I'm not sure I'm cool with that. Like he's 7. I'm trying to think
What
about
can
it.
they do? I don't know. You have
Everything.
a profile.
Like,
You have a profile.
It's a very powerful system.
Profile it to a kid's. I think there's a kid's account in Windows. I don't know. You'd figure it out. You'll figure it. It's just a barrier for you to figure out. That's all.
It's not bad. I'd feel better if it was a whole like touchscreen educational thing, and then just happened to have like a GTX 360 inside of it.
Throw it in there. Right.
Oh, now that's been a whole like that for sure has been. And any gaming dad listening who's even half considered looking into a gaming PC, like the specs suck, man. It is just the most confusing, asinine naming convention. Quick, Jeff, what do you think is of higher power, the Nvidia Titan X or the GeForce GTX 1060M?
Oh, those are a lot of letters, Magic Man. I don't know what you're gonna say.
Because in looking at in researching, okay, what actually works with VR?
Yeah.
Right. The So you have because there's some numbers we count. We learned how to count in school. They add up, right? Because the Nvidia 1060M, which I have on my laptop, not supported. Oh,
That's the crowd boo. Oh.
But the Nvidia 1070 is. So like 10 more, you go up.
Just missed it.
But the 1650 is not. So like, okay, so 1060 isn't. 1070 is, but 1650 isn't. Despite being, oh boy, quick math. Is that 580 more? That's probably wrong. But you know what? Anyways, roll with me.
You're doing all the numbers in your head, and you're like, why doesn't this make sense?
So you're just going through this list, like, what is this? And then there's a whole different. So that's like if you go with GTX and Nvidia, but then there's AMD's.
Different set of numbers, different.
But you get at least they're like, at least they are like 200, 300, 400, 500.
Right.
It's just so it's my lord. I can't believe you succeeded as well as you did when you were doing your research to figure out what the heck to buy your son, because this is just.
It was a lot of homework and a lot of tables like in Excel, like what exists, and then pairing this with a processor, which is a whole different number system with processors, right? So you're dealing with that, and then the amount of memory it's got in it, and yeah. I mean, you get a reward at the end of it, which would be a gaming PC, and I guess that's the goal. But yeah, it's a journey to get there.
Yeah. I don't know, even as I'm thinking about it, I think maybe I'll hold off on a year. I'll focus on the kids' Chromebook. Go through with what I got, and then next year get something that's kind of beefy and interesting when I more need it. It was a big year this year.
So that's for like Best Buy gift cards or something, and you stack them up so you can get your gaming PC.
No, Mom, I want Best Buy gift cards. Come on. Meh. What are these, socks? Come on, Mom.
Dad, can you help me out with this laptop and record a show for me, please?
I need you back in the podcast game.
That's right.
We get some of those sponsorships. Oh, all right. Well, around that way, let's end our own podcast for this week. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. This had been New Dad Gaming. As we mentioned at the top of the show, thank you so much for listening through us this last year. It was a fantastic year for us. We're really hoping to continue on having this great time with all of you and continuing to grow the show. So, as always, if you have any show ideas or notes or have your own experiences, if you struggled yourself with gaming PCs, if you have game recommendations, if you have horror stories of French horns yourself, if you have the elusive son or daughter dad setup for 2 consoles and 2 TVs, that I would love to see. That's going to be very hopeful for our listeners. Reach out to us at New Dad Gaming on Twitter or newdadgaming.com. If you are a fan of the show, as I mentioned at the top, we really appreciate it. Subscribe. If you can leave a rating and a review, it really helps boost the signal. And you're going to find the podcast on all the major podcast networks, iTunes, Caster, Google Play, Spotify, anywhere we get your podcasts. Just search New Dad Gaming. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. Until next week, my name is Trevor, and I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old.
And I'm Jeff. I have a 12-year-old, 9-year-old, and trying to get Trevor to buy a gaming PC. Like he got me to buy a Steam Deck.
I did do that, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
I feel pretty good about that. That's a notch in my belt. I'm pretty excited about that one. That was a great accomplishment from last year.
Sure it was. I'm enjoying it. Thank you for doing it. So
you're welcome, sir. Just remember, just because you became a dad
does not mean it's game over.
Cheers.
See you later.